that 3-year-old that knew she wanted to do it then. And as life happened and I had those years on tour and then I had to step away, and those times where you go, oh, is it done? Is it over? Well, if it was over, I had incredible experiences and that's okay. But a big piece of me knew it's not. It's still there. I just don't know where it's coming from yet. And that's okay. And so to see it actually happen and manifest, I'm like, I knew that. I knew that was going to happen. Oh, I visualized this since childhood. So for me, it was like unwrapping this Christmas present that you knew you'd maybe get someday. But then when you actually have it in your hands, it was so powerful. Music for me is that core being. As I mentioned at the beginning, at 3 years old, I crawled up onto a piano bench and started playing the piano by ear.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
Good day, and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Amy Scruggs. Amy uses her 20 years experience as a media executive, TV host, recording artist, public speaker, corporate spokesperson, and sales professional to help others present and communicate a concise and professional message for TV, podcasts, Zoom, social media, or public speaking appearances. Amy has been providing media and communication coaching to corporate and private clients through individual and team training workshops to enhance their communications and virtual media skills. She also advises entrepreneurs and startup companies on messaging, branding, and how to develop marketing strategies. In 2021, Amy received bestseller with her book, Lights, Camera, Action. As a TV host, she has enjoyed the past 5 years on the national shows The American Dream TV, Retiring Right TV, Veterans One TV, and Financing the American Dream, which airs on CNBC. As a recording artist, Amy has been known in the country music industry for more than 15 years and has opened for artists including Clint Black, Tracy Adkins, Charlie Daniels, and many more. Her new music, Love Another Day EP, released in 2022, and the single What If It All Goes Right is now on radio and charting worldwide, including reaching number 66 on the Music Rose chart, along with being selected for the New York Times Summer 2022 playlist. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Amy. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Thank you for having me, Dwight. Really excited to be with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited too, especially with our pre-talk. This is going to be
we got
fantastic.
a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, well, the best podcasts, like I said, are the ones that I don't get through the questions. We just have a conversation and it just flows. Those are the ones that energize me the most. And I look forward to this because, as I mentioned to you prior to hitting record, researching you and finding out who you are, I'm excited for my listeners and people that watch the show to get introduced to you.
We can scale that back, I promise.
Well, or have a part 1, 2, 3, 10, 12.
That's too much, Amy. Cliff note version.
That's okay.
I'm here to hopefully inspire and make you laugh and educate and share a story and just make people think. I think that would just be a really great time if we can accomplish some of that.
Perfect. So the best way to start that so that people can know, like, and trust you immediately, because it can happen that soon, is something that I focus on, which is a person's origin story. So many people, when they get, interviewed or on a podcast, people say, well, what's your back end story? And where do they start? They start when they started becoming successful. Well, guess what? Your journey from your earliest recollections to where you are today are part of molding who you become, the directions and trials and tribulations that you've gone through. So could you do me a favor, Amy, and tell me your origin story from your earliest recollections to where you are today?
I love that you started with this because as a media coach as well, which we'll get to later, this is exactly what I help my clients prepare for as well. So I am completely prepared for this. And I do agree with you. It's so important to take who you are from the beginning, because that is part of our evolution story, as I like to share. And for myself, starting at the age of 3, I already had a passion for performing. I started playing piano by ear, and I knew that I was going to sing and be a performer. So early on, music was a huge influence, and it was different. I came in a family here in Southern California that was all athletics. My brother was the star athlete in everything. And here was Amy, the musician, and it was different. I was different. I was the loud one. I was definitely energetic and engaging. And I was the one that would recruit my friends when they were younger to come and help do performances in the backyard and charge the neighbor kids to come in and see it. So I was creating opportunities, creating business, and creating ways to perform since I was very little. And so I went on to be in all of the performance choirs and all the different groups that you could be in as a kid, taking piano lessons, voice lessons, all of those things. And then life happens. It's like it does for all of us. And I was not able to continue on to that early on. I ended up having children early on. So my life quickly became about these young little beings that needed me, as I was also learning who I was. And I was able to step into a career in my late 20s because I had to provide for these little mouths. And I actually got into sales in the wholesale mortgage industry here in Southern California. I had an incredible woman take a chance on me. I knew nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean really nothing about the real estate and mortgage industry at that time. And she said, I like you. You're tenacious. I'm going to give you a chance and I'm going to teach you what I know. And that time was so powerful because I realized that I wanted to succeed not only for myself, but for her. When someone comes into your life at a critical moment and says, I'm going to take a chance on you, oh my goodness gracious, you say, wow, how can I repay this person? And I repaid her by succeeding and making her proud. We're still friends to this day. And I'm so grateful. That opportunity, though, opened up what became so obvious to me was that ability to be in front of people, to effectively communicate, almost be a performer to some degree, was allowing me to excel in sales because I was able to effectively be in front of people and ask for that business and learn what their needs were. And so I was able to learn the business while I was also learning the skills to achieving in sales. And that was a magical time in combination that I went on to really enjoy being top sales in wholesale mortgage in the early 2000s. But here in the US especially, we know what happened in 2007 was that industry disappeared. So anytime in life we go into what I call the shift, we have those choices to make. And that industry disappeared. My livelihood disappeared. It was gone. But what skills do I have? What tools do I have? That little girl that loved performing, understanding being in front of an audience, and then understanding how to put a business plan together and to go ask for the business. So I said, it's time to shift. And I went and put my business plan together as a performer. So in my early 30s, went out and asked for the business. And 6 months later, I was opening for Clint Black on a national stage in Arizona on the 4th of July because I asked for the business and put that same plan together and went on then to tour for the next year with 4 kids in tow, asking for the business, asking how to elevate and support different organizations and opportunities. My heart for the veteran community has always been very big. And I became the spokesperson for the American veterans for the state of California during that time as well. So taking a time in a recession that could have been extremely tragic and devastating, and it was still difficult. Taking 4 kids out on tour was not easy, but it took a business plan and that same mindset that the same little girl that put together a business plan, created shows in the backyard and charged the neighborhood kids and said, there's a business in this. I did that again in my 30s and it worked. And I'm so proud of that. So I think within me, there was something that I always knew that you had to have these tools in place. And when life really hits, it's time to say, what am I going to do? Am I going to face it? Am I going to create new opportunities or am I going to drown? And just drowning is not an option for me. So I went on to love doing that until about 2011, had some more tragedies hit. Our bass player died suddenly. Kids and I lost our home. And I said, okay, we have to shift again. So I stepped back into the real estate and mortgage world on the business development side and opened up more opportunities to land again, still perform and still did some amazing shows during that time, and was then asked to host a national television show about 6 years ago because of these experiences coming together. And I was able to take this tool and this tool and this tool and say, yes, I can do that. And that opportunity opening up, understanding professionals, entrepreneurs, effective communication, being comfortable on camera. And guess what happened in 2020? Our world had a shift again, didn't it? And the entire world is now on camera. And I went, wait a minute, that's my skill set. This is what I do. It's what I help people with. And so I was able to really start coaching more effectively and broadening my coaching career for helping professionals around the world because of what changed. And I know we're going to talk about the music. Opportunities opened up again to start recording and performing. And it's an evolution of continuing to see who I was to the core, to creating new opportunities for that, and not allowing failure to be an option.
Oh, yeah. Well, the focus of most of this is you're always putting out energy to want more, and you attract what you put out, right?
Yes.
And your energy, like even just communicating with you before I started recording, your energy is contagious, which is what the universe loves, really, because we're all part of the universe, and people want to. I know myself, I'd sooner be attracted to people that are outgoing and energetic and just vibrant. Their energy levels I love people that are energy levels higher than mine.
Right?
10%, 20%. It's like, wow, I want to be around that person. And then there's the people that are like, how was your day? Oh, it was okay. You know, they just got
and then you're fighting to bring their energy up. I
then
have
that's
dealt
energy.
with that so many times.
Yeah, they're an energy vampire, though.
Yes.
Because if you have to give them energy, I'm not saying that people listening or watching, I'm not saying you always have to be on, right? But majority of your life, you should really work at being on. You should be having a high energy, having a state of gratitude all the time, being grateful for what you possess, because there's so many that don't have that. So if you've been given the opportunity, and for me, I'm God-fearing. If God's given me the opportunity to open my eyes up this morning, the first thing I'm doing is having gratitude for that.
Yes.
And then starting my day through that and getting past the fact that there's no such thing as a bad day. I can always find good in a day. There's only bad moments, and those
there's
bad
just
moments
lessons.
do
There
not
might
need
be
controlling.
Sure, there might be fear or setbacks, but then there's lessons in it. So it's not a bad day. It's a day of lessons. And some days are days of celebrating victories from the lessons from the day before. And we're looking at that. And don't you find that instead of saying that we're on, it just is our being. Once you learn how to kind of be in this presence, this way of being and thinking and pursuing forward and gratefulness, like you're saying, with the energy and wanting to lift others up, that it's just me. It's not that I'm on. I've had people ask my kids, is she like this all the time? They're like, oh, yes, this is just Amy.
Well, it's like
That's it.
we breathe without thinking about it, and we can get into that state where we're always, whether you call it being on or just it's your persona or whatever it is, you can be that way. And I'm not perfect. I constantly have to work at it. And I tell people that I coach, I'm not expecting perfection from you. I'm expecting you to always strive to want to have, the ability to connect, to just be present with people, be a great listener. Like I wrote that down here, like some of the notes I was writing down. One of the things that sales would have taught you is, if you want to be successful in sales, because we're selling ourselves every single day. People listening, if you work at a job, you're selling yourself. You're selling your hours for dollars. You're in sales mode all the time. You don't realize it. Start capitalizing on the fact that everybody's in sales. So one of the key things of being in sales, because of being a serial entrepreneur, my current part of me business, 20 years. This year was my anniversary. It's a listening thing. I need to listen to people more than I talk, and understand that what they say, am I present in their words, or am I looking to respond? So when you said you were in sales, I thought to myself, well, that was a great starting block for you to be to where you are today. And then you said that, 2011, you had to get back into, you were camped for a bit, possibly. Who knows where you were exactly? I don't know. But your bass player died, and you got back into the mortgage industry.
Yes.
Well, you're tenacious. You also mentioned that when you were talking about getting into the mortgage industry, you're young kids and you're in your 20s. It's all about the fact that you are tenacious, you do listen, you have developed these skills over time. So those listening, don't think that when you want to be something different in your life that you have to accomplish it overnight. You need to goal set and put actions in place to accomplish it, and hang around with people with their belief system is higher than yours, their energy is higher than yours, and you will accomplish whatever you want. What time frame? I don't know. What level of energy are you going to put into it? Who are you going to associate with? But I really appreciate you sharing your origin, and it just tells me a ton. And you talked about support for veterans. I love that, because they are such I don't know if it's the right word, marginalized or thought of in a way that people feel pity for them. And I have a really good friend of mine. Her name's Patty Catter. She has a podcast that has over 2.5 million downloads an episode. It's called Wake Up with Patty Catter. She started that podcast 15 years ago, focusing on veterans because her husband was injured in the military, and brain injury and stuff like that, and she started a podcast focusing on that. It's since enveloped into an amazing brand, and I have a ton of respect for her. She's the lady that encouraged me, and the reason that my Give a Heck podcast even exists.
That's fantastic.
She tied me. She had me on her show before I ever had a podcast and said, you should have your own podcast. I want to help encourage you. And I was, I've heard that before, and I was just going to poo-poo it. Well, for the next few weeks, she wouldn't leave me alone. She kept on messaging me and saying, hey, here's my production company that I use. Here's this, here's that. How can I help you? You need to get a podcast going. And that's the type of people we need in our lives. That energy I talk about, where somebody's energy is higher than mine.
Yes.
Her energy is just, but it's all started. Her origin was just her life of trials and tribulations, but getting into the military and supporting and helping people. So that triggered the things that people say that trigger in us, right? You talking about that was awesome.
It was a huge part of my career. It has been a huge part of my career. That time period, especially when I was full-time serving the military, there were those 3 years there that we were the spokesperson for AMVETS. And this was at a time still before we really were using Facebook for anything. I didn't have YouTube. You were just still finding funny dog videos. There was no such thing as Instagram or TikTok or any of those things. And I didn't have cameras following me. This was literally grassroots, out in the field at veteran events. I've sung at Wounded Warrior events, coming home events, deployments. I've sung on a lot of on the bases, on different military bases. I have stood in the middle of a street and dedicated a highway to, I have done Gold Star events. And what was so special was the relationships that came about during that time. And I had my kids with me. So it was powerful relationships, as my children also saw a way that we could serve, a way that we could be out there saying thank you. I considered myself a community partner with the veteran community at that time. And we were also
giving them a voice.
Yes, I gave them a voice. I got to say thank you for a living at that time. And it was incredible. I still have tremendous, deep relationships in the veteran and military community for a lot of those that I served during that time, and also foundations that I still support, especially here in Southern California to this day. And I sit on the board of one of them still right now. And it's just, it's work that you can't put to words. And I encourage everyone to find that thing that they go out without cameras, without anything, and just serve and find that way to connect with other people in any category that you're passionate about, whatever that is, and have that be a huge part of your life, because it really rooted me to so many degrees that I know that the later successes that came, like now even having a hit song this year and the different big stages that I stood on, those I feel are the blessing and the reward for the service. It's the service that I'm the most proud of. Those were just these little beautiful nuggets of what I feel was like a God hug. Here you go. Here's this nugget. Here's that nugget. But the outreach and what we did and what I still do to this day at times is with serving our military is really the most important.
Well, it definitely is important. I know, again, I talked to so many people in the military that just feel that they're not listened to, or that people take them for granted, right? Yes. They're going to go out and put their lives on the line, no matter whether there's somebody working in the motor pool to somebody working in the medvac or maintaining, military vehicles or whatever the case may be. Every person that's in the military has some form of, again, when I talk to them, they feel like they aren't appreciated. So it's important that we bring their voice to light, and
Yes.
people like my friend Patty, and now yourself, thank you. Thank you for doing that, because it doesn't matter if you're in the US or Canada, it's the same thing. No matter where it is, they come back, they initially feel, their family might, good for you, friends, good for you, or they might hear their odd person say, thank you for your service. Well, words are cheap. What's the actions behind it? How are you actually supporting them?
Right.
Are you, oh, you're looking for a job, or you need somebody to talk to, or, sometimes that's all they need is a listening ear, and it can be that catalyst to push them forward in their lives.
And it's the entire family that serves, not just the soldier.
100%.
It's their entire family that we should be serving, helping, and blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations for doing that. Your whole journey so far, our conversation's been amazing, and we haven't scratched the surface yet. So one of the things I wanted to pivot into is your 20 plus years experience in media, right? From being a host, artist, a speaker, spokesperson, doing sales. How was your journey to create your own concise and professional message along that way? What was it like, you creating your own message?
You're right. It's definitely a journey as far as that goes. And trying to help the professionals I work there get there a lot quicker is a big part of what I do. For me, I loved how you said it, though, that listening skill. How can we define our message if we don't know what's resonating? It's not a message if it's not received. And so one of my favorite mentor, David Meltzer, he's incredible, but he talks about being more interested than interesting. And so I think it was these years of going out and listening. All the hosts I've had the privilege of sitting down with, whether it be on TV, radio, podcasts like this, I learned something from each one of them. And saying, okay, how can I deliver what it is I'm trying to say in a way that's resonating, and doing the honest reflection and going back and listening and reviewing it and saying, did that land? Was that okay? Is that too much? Where do I need to refine this? Where are the different key components of who I am and what I bring in that could bring value to others? Because at the end of the day, then the rest of it doesn't matter. I need to know that what I'm bringing in my message, my branding, and who I am, what my website says, even the music that I put out there this last year, it needed to bring value. It needed to be able to either inspire or encourage others. I love being a voice for other women, especially, to say, you can do this. You don't need to fit into these boxes or these categories. So making sure that my branding is on point has definitely been a fun evolution, but without honest introspection, without asking for other entrepreneurs or other people you trust and mentors to come in and take another look at it, then sometimes we can deceive ourselves. We may think it's the greatest thing out there, but if it's not connecting with people, then it's not working. So I always look and see what is working and how can I refine it.
Yeah, you're vulnerable enough to have other people, as you said, you have to have honest introspection and reflection. I belong to some masterminds, and I have a lot of good friends. And I think I will, since I've discovered that aspect of connection to others, whether it's over Zoom or face to face, or we fly and we meet up with one another, being able to be vulnerable to them and saying, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I'm thinking, or this is what happened, and this is the result I got, and it wasn't what I expected. And then shutting up and listening to what they seen or hear, right? Or read, or whatever, that, we all follow one another. So we try to stay engaged, and being able to be humble enough to realize that it's not bad criticism. It's constructive. It's designed to give their perspective. Does it mean I have to go, oh, you're completely right, I'm going to change? No, you talk to enough people, and then your plate's got all, just like going to a buffet. I always tell people I treat life like a buffet. I take what I like. I leave behind what I don't like. And sometimes I take extra helpings of the things I like, because it gets me to where I need to go. But you don't go to a buffet to eat everything. You don't go into a mastermind or go into a circle of influence where you think everybody knows everything better than you. You add value, they add value. Just be vulnerable and humble enough to realize that maybe you don't have it right in one aspect of your life.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that
Wisdom
you
and
can
multiple of
climb.
counselors, and great coaches have
And
coaches. We have to have that
I
in our
do.
life. And there's no way we can grow if we're trying to go about it on our own. We are not meant to grow and achieve on our own.
Never. And you know what? That's lonely.
Totally.
I'd rather, and it doesn't, those that are listening, I'm not trying to say, and I don't think Amy is either, that you need a bunch of people in your life, like 50, 100 or whatever. I
No.
find the smaller my group, the more personal it's gotten, the better results I get in serving others, because I don't want 50 opinions. I want a few opinions.
Right.
Right.
Trusted, vetted advisors.
Yes, exactly. And don't be afraid to get rid of people in your life either
It's true.
that aren't serving your
It's so true.
message and serving your heart's desire.
And we can do it lovingly. You can do it very graciously. You can
absolutely.
just maybe detach a little bit and separate out, still keeping them in your life without it being in the core of your life. And that happens all the time. We are supposed to be growing and evolving and changing. And if we're in a time of growth, which we should always be, then that's inevitably going to happen. If I look and have the exact same core of people for the last 20 years, I haven't grown.
Oh.
And you know what I love, since even COVID happened, the more the world shut down, the larger my network became, because I've purposely been meeting such amazing people. And the more like meeting you today, doing this interview, you're in my network now. And I love that. I know I could call you for something if I need something.
Absolutely.
And look how our world is expanding, because we're putting ourselves in these wonderful forums to communicate with each other, to inspire others. And the more I do that, the bigger it's getting. And it's so fun to watch unfold.
Well, it absolutely is. One of the things that I find fascinating, but I also understand that it's a learned thing. I can get just as much energy and connection over a Zoom call, like we're doing now, as I can face to face. Where at one point in time in my life, I thought, well, if I'm not face to face, rubbing shoulders with people, I can't get that energy, that connection. That's
We've definitely
not true.
changed that narrative the last 3 years, haven't we?
Absolutely. Like 117 podcasts.
Yes.
Every single person, what you had just said is true. I believe I could reach out to each one of those people and vice versa. And quite a few of them do. Probably a third of them I stay in touch with consistently.
Myself as well.
We become really good friends. Yes. And some of them I might never ever meet. Like the gentleman that I had on my podcast from, where was he, from Sweden, Switzerland? I've had people, you know what I'm saying? It's right. Or if the few I've had from the UK, I might never ever meet them. But it doesn't mean I will
not meet probably 90% of my network. Yeah. I would say 90% of my network I will never meet. And that's okay.
Yeah. Because what
an incredible privilege we have with today's technology. We couldn't do this 10 years ago.
No, we couldn't. And people need to understand that you can feel energy. You can feel love and compassion and anger. You can feel all of it over a Zoom call. Why can you do that? People say, well, you can't. Yes, you can. Become a student of human behavior, body language, tonality. You can see people's eyes. Also, I do too. You can teach people so much by just being present. Quit thinking about what you're going to say and be present in what Amy's saying. And while she's talking, look at her eyes, look at her body language. Is she leaning forward? Is she going back like this? No, if she's talking like this, then
we got a problem. Yes, and if you go on an interview and somebody's back like this, okay, this is not starting on the right foot. I'm like, I'm looking right into that camera because I want you to feel like I'm looking in your eyes, that I'm here and present with you.
But so the last few years has definitely taught me that anything is possible. The old mindset that I had to rub shoulders or be connected, even virtual seminars and virtual events that I've been on, I can get just as much out of them. Yes, it's nice to fly and get away, but sometimes it's nice just to be at the event. It's a day long or a day and a half. And when it's all shut off, I'm still at home.
Yes.
Right? It depends what our mindset is. So wouldn't you agree, Amy, that we have to go into that video connection and we have to go into it with an open heart and open mind? And so many people are standoffish in everything they do, whether it's face to face and they were flying to do a networking event, or personal growth, or if it's on video, it's their 6 inches that is stalling them. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Oh, completely. I see it all the time. I work with individuals all the time at various levels, completely. And it's amazing. It is the mind. It's the mind blocking it. And what's so fun is when you see somebody get past those barriers, though, and start seeing change created and start seeing them go, oh my gosh, okay, that was great. I can do that. And that's such a beautiful, amazing moment. And I'm like, yeah, I knew you could. I knew you could. Welcome. Welcome to this side. It's so wonderful.
Yeah. No more dark side for you. You're on the light.
Or,
You're on the light. You're on the light side of
I
life.
tell so many that I've had incredible moments. I've been on some of the biggest stages you could ask for. I've sung in stadiums, and I mean, just I've had incredible moments. But what I get to do now, helping others in their businesses and in their lives and with communications and being on camera, is I get to help them have their moment. And sometimes it's a newer professional, or maybe someone that wasn't as confident, that they're on their first podcast, and to them this is a big deal. And I watch them come alive and say, now you got to have your moment. You got to experience what I get to experience all the time. Congratulations. Isn't that great? We can find more of that. Let's help you get there. And watching others have their moment is so beautiful.
Well, it's taking that little ember that you've just mentioned, you've sparked in their first experience, and continuing to flame that ember so it becomes into a bonfire of their life that they're always ignited, right?
Yes.
And that's great. So many people, okay, I see this in the coaching industry, it's horrible. They'll get that little ember going, okay, you're doing good, good luck on your own. Or that person might be the issue. They'll stop utilizing what started that ember.
Right.
And they'll quit doing the things I always tell people, when you're having a lull in your business or in what you're doing in life, what's changed? Well, nothing's changed. Something had to have changed. What's changed? Maybe it's not a you thing. Maybe it's an outside circumstance, part of me that you took as a you thing. Let's work through it. Let's get through all that bottleneck that's going on and help you reignite your passion.
Right.
Maybe it's just destined for it not to be your passion anymore. Maybe it was just one season of your life. Now it's time to move on. That can be
an indicator that you need to shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'm an introvert, but yet I'm extroverted when I need to be. But I love dealing with people and helping them understand, that's exactly why I wrote my book, How to Live Life on Purpose and Not by Accident. My Give a Heck book is because so many people are stuck. Yes. They just don't know what to do.
And that scares me more than failure.
Once in a while they have a little spark or a little ember. They don't know how to continue to feed it, right? Or they have a seed of greatness. They don't know how to water it. However you want to look at it, whatever words we choose to use, we need to associate with people that can help us continue to ignite and increase our energy and stop being camped and climb. Now, if a person wants to stay camped, that's your choice. That's just not, you wouldn't be in my circle of influence, or I wouldn't be in your circle of influence. It just doesn't work that way. I'm looking for people that are always on the climb.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean they're going from one new thing to the next new thing. They're working on their thing, and they're always trying to strive to be the best version of themselves within that, what they're trying to present. Right. So anyway, we could go on and on about that. I do want to ask you about the message. I've heard so many people, and especially with yourself, like TV, podcasts, the video calls, social media, your public speaking, all that stuff, your message comes across, obviously. I've been to over 300 events in the last 30 years of my life, right? People don't believe that, but it doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much. Right? I totally get that.
Not at all. And bottom line,
it adds up fast.
It adds up fast, but it's the broke way that people deliver their message. They stand up, they figure because they can stand in a boardroom and present to people using PowerPoint or the old, microfiche, whatever, depending on their age, right? Bottom line though, their message is okay. Their delivery sucks. Yes. They don't work on their delivery skills, and I constantly work on mine. And you mentioned it too. That's why I review my podcasts. That's why when I speak, I'll ask people, What did you like? What didn't you like? Obviously, you're going to have those people that are fanning you and never going to give you the truth, even if there's something sucked. But hopefully, you have enough good people in your circle that'll tell you, you know what, maybe you need to cut it back a little here and increase there. Whatever. The question I have for you, if you were to talk to somebody about working on their delivery today, what would be some of the key things you would tell them to work on immediately in regards to their message?
I would definitely have them watch it back. So whether they record it, play it back for themselves. First question is, would you watch you? Would you listen to you? Would you have found what the takeaways were? Do you know what the key message talking points were? If that wasn't clear, you kind of know where you need to start. So taking a look and saying, what is it? What is my beginning, middle, and end? Is this inspirational? Is this supposed to be humorous? Is it supposed to be educational? What is it? What is the core? Let's break that down and break it into those few components, and then how to deliver it, how to make that eye contact, how to use proper storytelling, where you put in those pauses and breathing, audience engagement, and most importantly, how you read your audience. You might deliver to one audience one way, but another one a completely different way because you're reading it. Wait, this audience, all right, I can see that they are faster. This needs to go quicker, or maybe it's slower and I need to pace it. Where does it need to breathe? Being aware that it's this constant moving, flowing thing that we're doing. I do the same presentation a lot. I go out and do a lot of public speaking. And I'm telling you, every time it is slightly different because I'm reading that room and I'm making adjustments in the moment based on what I'm feeling come back, where I'm seeing they light up, reading their body language. There's an art to that. And I have to know my message inside and out so much that I can be present in watching my audience. If I'm trying to learn my material while I'm saying it or I'm fumbling through it, there's no way I can focus on what is coming back to me from that audience. So really that practice, that precision, and doing it over and over again. And again, honest evaluation. What works, what doesn't work. Constantly refining and retuning it.
Well, great response, because I speak to so many people that just don't continue to get better. They're doing it in a can. It's like a canned presentation or a canned speech, and reading the room is important. I know I've found over the years in my finance industry, I'd go speak and people were there because they're a captive audience, meaning they're coming to this event because it's based on strategies and finance and insurance, and they're going to listen. They don't necessarily come to see me. Whereas if I speak at an event where it's personal development, people are going to know, oh, he's one of the speakers and he's going to be talking about, oh, I can't wait to hear him.
Yes, it's different. That's a different narrative.
Completely different energy too, right?
Completely.
Doesn't matter. I'm not going to go up on a stage speaking to a bunch of 30 to 60-year-old people about finance or investing and talk to them in a very they're just going to go like this. They don't want it. They just want it to be.
You have to know your audience.
Robotic. And I 100%, I love the fact that you said that. And you always have to be willing to reflect and go, when I said this, especially if we can have a playback and see it, it's even better. And you can see not you necessarily speaking, but the audience. And usually you get this kind of response. Oh, maybe I read their audience wrong. Are we always trying to get better, or are we just figure that we've arrived?
You know what today's litmus test is on that?
What?
Look out and see how many are holding their cell phones in their hand. If everybody's looking at their phones and going like this, your message isn't landing. When I notice that I can get into that first part of it, or maybe through that first story of getting their attention, and I can see the majority of the audience does not have their phone in their hand, then I've got them. Because that is today's world. Yes, of course, people are still going to need to check, and a text comes in and they need to look. But when you see someone really sitting there, I've sat through many presentations where I've been, a spectator and watched the people around me just on their phone, swiping. The speakers lost them. So you've got to look and see, do I have their attention? Are they fumbling through their things? Are they noodling on the table? Where are you feeling their body language feed and come back? It is really important. Unless you're just going through the motions and you don't care, then you don't care. But if you're really up there because you're wanting to inspire, lead, teach, anything, if I'm teaching on something that's financial, I still want you to have takeaways. You came to this thing to learn something. It's my job to present it.
What about the emotional roller coaster? I hear speaking coaches talk about it. I've read about it. I try to practice it where you're taking people when you're speaking, whether it's a 10-minute, half hour, an hour, you're taking them on a journey so that they're not always in the same um, physical feeling.
Right.
What's your take on that? You know what I'm asking?
Yes. And what's fun for me is because you're also speaking to a recording artist. So you're talking to an entertainer. That is my job to do from the stage in music as well. So for me, that encompasses everything that I do, whether I'm speaking or performing. I am taking you on that journey. And it's my son, who's my lead guitar player. We call it the when the lights go down syndrome. There is definitely, after a show, there's this, you feel it. You feel your entire body and energy just shift because you put so much out there. And then it takes about a day to level it out. And then you can go into the next one and do it again. But there definitely is that cycle, and you just have to be aware of it, realizing you've given. And so you're going to feel that depletion. And so then there's different techniques, whether it's meditation, laughter, other things that we would do after a show to bring ourselves back up and refill that well of what we've used to give to help our audience have an emotional experience.
That's a great response. And it is about helping people, their lives outside of listening to you, hearing your music, or whatever the case may be. A lot of people's lives suck. I hate to be harsh, but it's true. They don't like their lives. They're on a hamster wheel. They go to work, go home, get paid. They come home, they develop addictive personalities because they're not happy at work. They're not happy at home. And they come to see an entertainer like yourself, or they come to listen to you speak in an event. Maybe it's escape for them. It's our duty. It's our responsibility to give people more than what they're used to, in my opinion. Right. So like myself last night in Edmonton here, I went to a concert of an artist that I like, Kane Brown. He was in Edmonton last night, and the energy he gives off. And when my son and I left, I was just like, awesome.
Isn't that fun?
And then I've been to other artists, and it's just been like, might as well just listen to their CD or, streamed it on. It's just like,
there is a difference between being a good singer and also being a performer. There's a lot of great musicians. It doesn't mean that they know how to be a performer or an entertainer. Same with speakers. You're right. Somebody can go up and click through a PowerPoint, but there's one thing in being able to be a presenter or just being a speaker.
Yeah, 100%. The next thing I want to go on to, and we touched on this a little bit before, and I thought about this because I was reading through, I forget what I was reading about you, and I created this, and then you brought it up a little bit, and this is probably going to make you smile. But a very large problem in our world today is the fact that people are afraid to ask for what they want, right? And they're afraid of that 2-letter word, that nasty no. I've personally had this issue initially as on my serial entrepreneur journey. However, I learned to embrace it. Because for me, I had somebody coach me through it, that every time I heard a no, I was that much closer to a yes.
Exactly.
Right? So what words of advice could you give listeners on how to overcome their fear of no and use it for a positive stepping stone to the yeses in their life?
Yes. My mentor speaks about this all the time, and it's that power of the no. So let's just use the simple number of 25. If you knew you were 25 no's away from getting what you want, wouldn't you be excited about 18 no's, 19 no's, 20? That was my 20th no. I'm getting there. Every no leads you closer to that yes. And taking that fear out of the no, because we all need to hear those no's. Because how else are we supposed to have an indicator of which direction we're going? If we get the first yes the first time, what if that wasn't the right path? How could I possibly learn any lessons or be able to self-gauge or have the tools I need? If this thing that I want is that big, I better have some tools in my tool belt when I get there. And those no's create those tools in the tool belt to have you prepared when you get there. So I get excited. I'm not afraid of no. I'm afraid of regret. I'm afraid of not trying.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm afraid of, looking back going, gosh, what if I had just asked that one more time? What if I had tried that? When I got the call 2 years ago that I could go back to Nashville after all these years and record a new project, what if I thought, well, but it's during COVID, and what if it doesn't work? And what if we don't find the right songs? And what if this isn't the right time? Or what if people think I'm too old to be back in music? And what if nobody listens to it? What if I can't afford it? And what if I had done that? Which I love the irony, that the hit song that came out of this was called What If It All Goes Right. I manifested it so much and said such a big
I
yes
love the
that the
video
yes
by that,
song
by the way.
came to me. It was a
I
needle in
love
a haystack.
that song is amazing. And those watching or listening, go to YouTube, search for the song, and watch the video. I watched it today, and I rewound parts of it, and I was just going, "Wow, this is a very well put together video. It fits
Thank
with
you.
the song." So, if
I
nobody's
chose
told you,
every clip.
you probably were told this already. But as somebody that's just getting to know you, I loved it. So I
Thank
really
you.
connected with it. You're welcome. It
I
was
visualized that before we filmed it, and I produced and chose every clip in that video and completely timestamped and put that together and handed it to the editor like a giant jigsaw puzzle and said, this is what I want it to look
where
like.
was that body of water? Where was
That
that
was
body of water?
Carlsbad here in San Diego,
Oh,
California.
okay. I know where Carlsbad is.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
So that
planning
was right
on
there on Carlsbad Beach, 10 minutes from home. And I said, this is how I visualize it. Here's the other. I wanted to show individuals from all walks of life having their moment at their win. That's why even there's one and everybody's going to go watch it, I'm sure. But even the older man in the wheelchair being led out of the hospital, it went right for him. I wanted to show victories of all walks of life and all
his energy though on his face.
Yes.
The capturing of that on video is just priceless.
Thank you. It was
You're
a
welcome.
really incredible project to put together. And I put it out there not knowing if one person would see it, if a million people would see it, didn't matter. I only cared about connecting to that one. If one person was impacted and inspired by it, and I did it right. And then it became another one and another one and another one. And it was so fun to see the responses come back around the world that said the world needs this song right now. And that song was because I wasn't afraid of the no. I went for the yes and I found it.
Good for you. And I like the fact you talk about, this was, oh my gosh, I'm going to date myself. This was 20 years ago when I first got into the finance insurance industry. And a gentleman from the US, he's actually I think he's from California area. His name's Blair Singer. And he has a program that he comes up and he teaches you how to break arrows against your neck and get all your fear out and go up on stage and stuff like that. And he said, back to that no thing, he said, celebrating your no, he says, every time you hear a no, do something, whether it's outlandish and people around you know, where he says you can go take your arm and just go, yes, I got another no, or you just snap your fingers or whatever you need to do to reiterate in your mind that that's a positive, that you got to know that it's not a negative. So I like the fact you talk about you must celebrate. You need to celebrate the no's. And
Absolutely.
I've gotten very good at doing that to a point where it's just like water off a duck's back. I just don't let it bother me.
Right.
And for those that are listening or watching, for those that are watching or listening, if no bothers you, you can get past it. You really can. Back to like you said,
I say
think about the 25. Think about the 25 no's. I love that.
Right.
Put a defined number on it.
I just avoided something I shouldn't have been doing. Oh, thank you. No is a great answer. It protects me. Everything is either coming in to protect or promote me. And the no's are there to protect or promote me every time.
Absolutely. 100%. So I wanted to get into a little bit about your best-selling book. Congratulations, by the way. My book came out in 2021 as well and became a bestseller. So
we see what we were all doing when COVID hit.
Yeah.
Time to write.
It was very cathartic though for me to write my book. I don't know about yourself. It helped me share my origin to where I am at today. Mm-hmm. And I always talk about this and people think it's kind of corny. The book allowed me to, and now my podcast as well, being a guest or the host, speaking on stage, it allows that music inside of me. And I'm not talking necessarily auditory, the music of my life not to be stuck inside of me, that I'm working on my legacy as a living thing. I was just going to say your legacy. As a living thing, not as a dying thing. Mm-hmm. What am I going to, if I passed away tomorrow and somebody wanted to know something about me, they don't have to go talk to a relative or a friend. Right. They can find stuff out there. Yes. Maybe I can inspire people beyond the grave. And that's what I've been striving to do and focusing on, is making sure that, I am able to help people. And the book was a great place for me. So could you tell me, what was that journey like for you and how has it helped you with that book? Like what can people expect when they read your book?
Well, for myself, a little bit different experience in putting it together because with my ADHD, I had to duct tape myself to this chair. No question.
Duct tape.
It was a little bit more of like, okay, this was the challenging. Speaking, being in front of people, performing, that comes naturally. Telling me I've got to sit down and put the pen to paper, per se, that was like, ooh, okay, we're going to do this. All right. So putting myself to that challenge. But what I didn't want the book to be was just me. What I wanted was to celebrate great people that have come into my life who have also contributed to some of these successes and the tools that I've put together as a media coach, and also other great professionals that I've learned from that could contribute. So what I did first was kind of outline what is it that I want to make this. I want this to be a fun, more simple guide. I want people to laugh. I want them to see themselves in it and say, okay, I can do that. I just wanted it to be a guide that people can say, I can do that. And then I reached out to my sphere of influence, and I reached out to key people in each category. So I reached out to someone that I knew was going to be perfect to talk about first impressions. I reached out to a top professional that I knew would be perfect to talk about messaging, and some pretty big, some name brand people are in here. And it was really fun when they said yes. If they said no, I had a few say no, no problem, because the ones that said yes were supposed to be in the book. So it's my tips, but really great stories from other incredible professionals. And then also those in my circle that had been a part of my coaching early on and said, can you share your success story? Are you willing to share where you grew from here to here and how this worked for you? So that you can see professionals of all industries share how they were able to grow in their confidence in speaking and being on camera. And so I love the collaboration that went into this book. For me, that's what I was so proud of, that at the end of the day, and again, like you said, during COVID, we didn't know how long we were going to be there. I knew at least putting this book together was going to be a great record of wonderful friendships, networking relationships, and then could be a tool to those that I couldn't coach in person, that don't want to do private coaching. Well, here's the book. At least there's something to help you grow. And thankfully, it has been a success, and I'm happy for those that have read it and said that they've been able to pull some tips or some tricks from that and some tools to help them become more confident.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. One of the things though that I really enjoyed though is you talked about the stories. You give the people that said no weren't necessarily meant to be there. The people that said yes, you've given them the ability to share their stories. Obviously,
Yes.
it's your book, but that's powerful because today, in today's day and age, or even 10 years, 20, 30 years ago, so many people have such amazing stories, but they don't have a sounding board or ability to be able to share that
Right.
story. So that's amazing,
It
right?
was fun.
It is fun. It definitely is fun. I know some of the stories that I shared in my book. It was cathartic when I say that at sharing it, because it was stuff that I really wouldn't have talked about or would think that I'd ever share with somebody, that
Right.
vulnerability. So you giving people the ability to share their story, that's a vulnerability
Yes.
that's amazing.
Yes.
Thank you for doing
And be able to show them appreciation for who they are in my life and for their own growth, and to use that as inspiration for others. I didn't want it to be an entire book of Amy. There's enough Amy. You can go to the website. I'm everywhere. I've got music too. I'm like, there's enough of me. But this was concise and really on point and on brand for just really discussing the media coaching portion. What I didn't know was that I was going to get a call from Nashville to record an album at the same time. When I was writing the book, I had no idea that was literally coming in right beside it. And so these two projects ended up releasing within 6 weeks of each other. And I
Wow.
remember being told I was crazy to release a book and an album at the same time. And that's how it came together. And I said, well, why not? Why not allow one to feed the other? I knew the music was going to sell the book, and I knew the book was going to sell the music. And that's what's happened.
Well, and the people that said you were crazy to do both at the same time, everything in life, people have a defined wall or have a defined barrier,
Mm-hmm.
and they broke past it. Roger Bannister breaking the record for running.
Right.
Same thing. Nobody believed he could do it. And after the fact, look how many people did it. Why do I use that as an example? Because there was a barrier, people telling him he never could do it. He didn't
Right.
believe it. And he went out and did it and set a new precedent. So
Yes.
congratulations. Good for you doing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One of the things I really, we talked a little bit about your new EP, right? Love Another Day. That I personally just love that song, Love Another Day. I was, as I mentioned to you, I was listening to it And that song is so full of gratitude, right? Obviously, it's very defined, and that's what you were looking for people to understand gratefulness. Everybody needs that in their life, in my opinion. What inspires you still today to be a singer? Like you talked about the fact of getting reached out from Nashville. You didn't think you could do it in your, in 40s, now into your 50th year. What inspires you to continue to be a singer and sing the most powerful songs?
That 3-year-old that knew she wanted to do it then. And as life happened and I had those years on tour and then I had to step away, and those times where you go, oh, is it done? Is it over? Well, if it was over, I had incredible experiences and that's okay. But a big piece of me knew it's not. It's still there. I just don't know where it's coming from yet. And that's okay. And so to see it actually happen and manifest, I'm like, I knew that. I knew that was going to happen. Oh, I visualized this since childhood. So for me, it was like unwrapping this Christmas present that you knew you'd maybe get someday. But then when you actually have it in your hands, it was so powerful. Music for me is that core being. As I mentioned at the beginning, at 3 years old, I crawled up onto a piano bench and started playing the piano by ear. So there was something in there that was a part of my core being that I was born with. So that's there, and it's never going to not be there. Yesterday, I had a beautiful experience sitting down at the piano again while my college daughter picked up the cello and played alongside me. There's a connection and a magic that you can't put words to. And what I told her, I said, this is amazing. It's timeless. I hope when I'm 95, we still sit down and do this. My oldest son, Ryan, is my lead guitar player, started playing for me at 16 years old and toured with me as my lead guitar player for those years. We have a magic and a connection and a beauty in that words can't describe. Music is such a powerful, powerful vessel. And it is a part of my DNA. Thankfully, 2 out of my 4 kids have that musical ability and talent and inside of them as well. And it's our language. So regardless of whether it's music that is on Spotify and the world can hear it, or whether it's music like yesterday that was just in our living room for 2 of us to hear, maybe 3 of us to hear, it's beautiful and it's a piece of me.
Oh, the memory. Those watching, you understand what I'm talking about. Amy's face was just lit right up. It's amazing the things that so many people take for granted, right? They forget to have gratitude, and you have that moment, that memory that's going to live forever. Now you've just shared it on my podcast, and
Yes.
whoever else, it's going to live forever. And that's amazing. I get the people laugh, though. I always talk about getting the warm and fuzzies, warm and fuzzy feelings, right? Right in my heart. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's amazing that you have that connection with your daughter through music, and your son that he was able to start playing for you at 16. It's amazing too.
It was amazing. We served the veterans together. We've been on national stages together, and just powerful. He can read me. He knows if I move my earlobe, what that means. He knows. We have that connection together that it's just magic.
That's awesome. So, Amy, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
Take the limits off. Whatever limits you've put on, whether it's an age limit, a talent limit, a financial limit, an ability, whatever it is, take the limits off and watch and see what can happen in your life. It's amazing when we learn how to shift without limits, the beauty that we can experience that is so much bigger in size, width, breadth, everything in life and living and joy than you can imagine.
Wow. That is an amazing last closing message. I've loved this conversation and getting to know you, and you've got a new fan. Definitely. I'm going to be following you, especially your music, because as I mentioned, I'm a country fan. So it'll be great to be able to go back and especially listen to the 2 songs I've listened to since yesterday, and as well as your other material that you have. So I look forward to that. But yeah, thank you again for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we close off the show?
Thank you for what you do. Thank you for bringing others' stories, inspirations, lessons, and messages out to the world and continuing to be a light in this world. What you're doing is very important and very powerful. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of it today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And you're welcome. It's been my pleasure. I love having great conversations that flow, that the energy is high, and that the message is bountiful. So thank you again. To respect your time and the listeners' time, can you please tell us what's the best way for them to reach you?
Amy Scruggs. You just Google, I promise you will find me. All my handles are Amy Scruggs or Amy Scruggs Media, amyscruggsmedia.com, amyscruggsmusic.com. Just put in Amy Scruggs. Thankfully, it's not a common name. You cannot miss me, and you can find me, reach me through DM, Facebook Messenger, email. You can find it all through the website. And if you just Google Amy Scruggs, you will find me.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that all your information, your website, your social media is put into the show notes. Those that are new to the show, go to giveaheck.com, hit the podcast portal. You'll see Amy's smiley face, and you'll see the show notes below, as well as links to access the episode on all top podcast platforms, as well as a YouTube link to go to my channel if you prefer to watch. So I appreciate you again, Amy, being on Give a Heck and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.